family oriented, as well as they are involving different people with different diversities, and also different backgrounds. We capitalized on our existing networks, and we also had new groups that we had researched earlier. For example, CanAge, the Canada Seniors Forum, and Active Adults. We also had a very good relationship with the City of Mississauga to find sites that we could take seniors to do some outdoor activities. We had planted in 10 different parks, and so some of them were perfect for taking seniors to measure and mulch. And we were also able to mobilize our Canada Summer Job students who could help us with some of the training and teaching, as well as some of the physical activities. So the project goals were to get seniors outside and to increase their activities and get some exercise. We wanted to also rebuild socialization opportunities in a safe place, especially after COVID. We wanted to connect seniors not only to nature to improve their knowledge, but also their health and well-being. And we wanted to address actions that are facing us, considering that trees are one of the best ways to mitigate climate change. And then we wanted to make sure we could incorporate seniors in maintaining trees, especially the mulching and maintenance of soil. We also provided winter activities through webinars to keep seniors engaged. We held 5 outdoor events. These were held throughout the parks that had accessibility. They also needed measuring of data because we had done the benchmark measuring. We had some really exciting outcomes with finding out that many of the trees were successful. Then we also had some sad moments to find out that the mowers had mowed down half of a planting site. But this was all very important data that needed to be shared with the City of Mississauga, of which we're preparing that report. We also held 3 indoor webinar events. One was about mulch and the science behind it. We also had Pamela speak to us about getting tech savvy. Then we also had Laura from CanAge discuss challenging conversations, specifically about aging and lifestyle, as well as elder abuse. So for each of our events, we did a survey, whether we did it informally and formally through paper. We found out, first of all, seniors were happier outdoors. They were so glad they came out, and they were very happy that they got some activity. And they were self-aware that they were challenged to do things that maybe they never did before, and they could do them. They increased their tree knowledge, working with each other. People passed down information from their gardens, from their experiences to each other, and they learned about trees. They also made social connections. It was really nice to see everyone, after a few events, when they met up, they had stories that they started sharing with each other, and they were sharing their own life experiences, as well as daily events that were happening in their own lives. One of the most special moments that I recorded it, actually, and I'm not going to play it here because I didn't get permission, was one of the elders talking to a 4-year-old, and it was just fascinating. They carried on for about 10 minutes talking about things, and it was very natural. And it wasn't a teacher talking to a student. It wasn't the elder patronizing. It was like they were both peers doing a job that they were both part of, and they were concerned. It was just wonderful. So seniors were also engaged through webinars. They learned new information. They were very interactive during the presentations. They had lively discussions, and we found they were motivated to learn more, and ACER definitely plans to hold more webinars with the facilitators that presented. So our next steps from this project are that we will continue to apply for grants that include seniors' needs. We will also continue connecting and engaging seniors in our other programs. We will set up webinars to increase knowledge on the topics that they identified. And we will also teach seniors to use new technology in the field. We already have an example on our ACER team with Alice and others that we're constantly learning. And so this will happen again with our senior community at large. And so, yes, good news. We've acquired through Cancel, we acquired a Juniper tablet and a Trimble GPS, which is a global positioning systems equipment that will make us be able to accurately measure the location of our trees. And that's really important because when you want to go back to a site, you want to be able to find your trees to remeasure. We also want to make sure that when we're communicating with all sectors, whether it's an NGO or whether it's a conservation authority or the city of Mississauga, that we are able to tell them where those trees are located for maintenance as well as for monitoring their growth. If you look at Trimble's own words, it makes the whole surveying portion of it very efficient. It ties up with our other software technologies that we're using. We have S3 GIS system, and also we are more precise, of course, and then we can also scale up. So whether we're looking at a small project that we're doing where we're planting 15 trees on a schoolyard, we can also scale up to 10,000 trees planted across Southern Ontario. And that's all. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Sadia. That's very interesting. And now I'd like to call on Jonathan Brown from Cobourg, Director of Education for Go Open Data, to make his presentation about the work with GLAF, Great Lakes Local Action Fund, and Ganaraska. Jonathan.
Thank you, Madeline. Can you hear me and can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Thanks. So as a follow-up to Sadia's excellent overview of her work in your area, Cobourg is an hour east of Toronto on the shores of Lake Ontario, and that was the hub that we used to work with our partners here, the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority, the Association for Canadian Educational Resources, and the staff from the town of Cobourg and Port Hope, 2 of the 7 municipalities of Northumberland County. So just to give you a quick overview, this particular Great Lakes Local Action Project was one where we explored a lot of different tools, digital tools, and looking at the technology that we might explore building into our projects in the future. And by our projects, I'm talking mainly about ACER, who is leading us in getting the funding to plant over 1,000 trees and shrubs in 6 locations across Port Hope and Cobourg in riparian zones. And we use this particular water conservation garden demonstration site as a framework for our work. And our hope is that we will be able to create a 360 virtual reality walkthrough of our riparian zones as they grow and do their job at protecting our environment by cleaning the water and stabilizing the soil around our cold water creeks. So here we have one of the sites, and this site, you can see Sadia there giving us our instructions. And for this site, we had over 68 volunteers from local schools as well as from the town of Port Hope and our own volunteers. And with that, we were able to not only plant the trees, but begin to look at using drones. So one of our summer students, who you'll meet in a minute, was able to create this drone video. And then we used another software called a video editing software, open source, that's used by school boards, called DaVinci Resolve. And you can see where you can add in different pieces of information. And the information that I added in there combines the structure of this retention pond that cost $1.1 million to what's the word, to dredge. And we're hoping that by planting the trees around this retention pond, we will extend the life cycle of this retention pond. And here you have an example of how the school campus can participate in that. They planted the trees on the school campus just north of it. And then our student is looking at using another open source software to do what's called photogrammetry landscape surveys. And he's able to use the drone to capture the images and then be able to create the contours. And with the slopes, you can begin to then plan where to plant the trees to have the greatest impact on managing the stormwater runoff. So I'm not going to read all this out because I put the link to my presentation in the chat, and you can access this at your leisure. Now, the other one we're exploring, and we're only exploring at this stage, is the use of 360 cameras. And I'll play this quickly.
Looking at using the 360 Insta 360 camera, and I'm doing a very quick demo of how we can use this for identifying invasive species to support citizen science. And hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to make it short.
So that is short, and you can see that you can then zoom in and you get a 360 view. You can also put the goggles on if you want to have an immersive experience. So now here are the students that we worked with. One of them likes the technology. The other one likes the outdoors with a chainsaw and other tools to set up a landscape business. So that's what we were doing. And I want to play this testimonial. It's short, but I want you to hear it from the lips of this 12-year-old, grade 12 student.
What did you get out of these projects, Matt?
Yeah, all these experiences have been really, really useful. Like I learned how to code through these. I've learned all about the drone flying and all of the different softwares. And I've learned all about the environment. Like before this, I've never really had any sense of what's going on in the town in relation to environment. And it's opened up like a completely new world of experience. Like I never knew anything about these taxes or how this kind of technology can be used in our town. Like I always assumed that it was some big projects that happened in Toronto, but it's very possible to do with what we have now.
There we go.
And then I'm going to play you this another short one. You can see the sign that Alice had made for this is the Chris Garrett retention pond where we planted trees. And that's where the sign will be installed.
Jaron, why should families come out to Venture 13th next Saturday, May the 25th?
Last summer, I was hired by Sustainable Coburg, and I measured trees and identified invasive species, and that helped keep our waters clean and our lands healthy. With those skills, they'll help me in my landscaping business.
That's great, Jaron. So come on out on May the 25th and learn how you can use technology to protect our natural heritage.
And that event that was referred to on the 25th was a hackathon event, and also an event for elementary kids where we had them do a wetland in a pan and a natural art scene of Northumberland Hills. And with the hackathon, we hope to extend that this fall with the city of Mississauga. They're looking at hosting another hackathon. A hackathon is where you have a particular challenge. You bring together a cross-curricular team of youth and seniors if they want to participate. There's no age limit on this. And then they look at coming up with a solution to that problem and they pitch it to some judges. And we had a judge from the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority who was a water engineer expert and a stormwater expert. And one of the issues that we're facing here in Coburg is a stormwater fee that is introduced. And we want to look at using natural infrastructure as a way to earn credits towards reducing that particular tax. So I'm not going to play you that, but you can play the pitch there. It's 12 minutes. And that's my presentation. I just wanted to say that I skipped over the digital twin because that's another concept it means all things to all people, but essentially a digital twin is a representation, a digital representation of the natural and built infrastructure as it is performing. And by that, I mean, as it's a real-time picture. So for example, if you're having a storm coming into the region, the University of Waterloo has a whole portal that tracks that. We had a Direcco in May 21st, 2022, that went from Windsor to Ottawa, and it was the worst natural disaster that the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority had in its short history from 49. They lost a lot of trees in one particular area. Now they're using drones, and they're asking citizen scientists to upload images so that they can analyze the patterns and use that to become better at adapting to the more frequent extreme weather events that we're going to see. Thanks, and back to you, Madeline.
Thank you, Jonathan. And as we said, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. So now I'm going to call on David Lang to talk about his work in the Brampton with the Brampton Environmental Alliance, the Rooted in Hope initiative. David, over to you.
Okay. Hi, Madeline. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, that's terrific. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is David Lang, and I'm the president of the Brampton Environmental Alliance. I want to talk to you today about the Rooted in Hope project, which we did in collaboration with ACER and other partners that I'll talk about in a moment. This project was named by our youth council members back last August, and they were also the ones that created the Rooted in Hope logo that you can see here. So the Brampton Environmental Alliance, just to give you a very quick overview, is an organization that believes in building a sustainable Brampton, both economically, environmentally, and socially. We believe in the 10 One Planet Living principles from bioregional, and we are involved in 4 different areas, including advocacy of various events, providing education, and working with our members and others in collaborative activities. The Rooted in Hope project had a number of different objectives. For those of you that have been involved, that are involved in submitting grant proposals, you know that you have to follow the objectives that the granting agency wants you to do. But ultimately, you also want to try and achieve some of the things that are important to your organization, so that it can keep your members interested in what their priorities are. So our project kind of blended that. It actually was very, very similar in many ways to both Jonathan's project in Cobourg and what Sadia was talking about in Mississauga. It was done primarily under the support from an Ontario Seniors Community Grant, but also with some federal funding through their aging in place project that was let last summer. So our focus was on both seniors and youth, and from a seniors perspective, the idea was to improve both physical and mental health and create community connection. From a youth perspective, it was to improve physical and mental health, trying to address eco-anxiety, which we find is particularly prevalent among high school students, and then allowing them to see a practical application of their academic skills in maths, chemistry, and geography. And then lastly, to create an intergenerational connection between the seniors and the youth, which Sadia talked about a little bit, but this was between secondary school students and the seniors. And then, you know, our primary objective really was to increase awareness of nature by using this old adage, if we're aware, then we care. We're finding, I don't know whether it's experience Okay, can you hear me now? I think I got muted for a second.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, our challenge is that with between COVID and the economic downturn and inflation and affordability issues, home affordability, it's basically sucked all the oxygen out of the room when it comes to environment. So the environment has dropped down substantially in people's awareness, and therefore concern and or funding and or policy direction for the environment has dropped off significantly. So we need to reverse that. And awareness is is an area, and education is an area that we wanted to focus on. So as I say, we worked with ACER as one of our primary collaborators, but also we had a relationship with the city of Brampton, specifically with their Parks and Recreation Department and their Forestry Department. And we did this by combining their forest management plan in with our project, and we're providing them data that will help inform their urban forest management project as it goes forward. Toronto Region Conservation Authority provided the majority of the tree stock that we planted, and PCHS, which stands for Punjabi Community Health Services, helped us to source and recruit some of our senior participants, as well as they are responsible for hosting Brampton's Bike Hub. And the Bike Hub provided us with some training, as you'll see in a moment, to encourage the use of active transportation, cycling and walking to go to many of the events. So we were really trying to reduce our carbon footprint. There were a number of different aspects of this project. We delivered 5 seniors health workshops over the course of the project. So I think there's pictures of 3 of the projects that we delivered. And this was to focus, primarily on balance and stability. So we provided information to the seniors about the importance of maintaining the lower body strength as you age, and to improve stability and balance so that you prevent falls. And then, as I mentioned, we held 2 seniors bicycle safety workshops and encouraged those seniors to then use their bicycle to travel to the various tree planting and monitoring events. Then we held 3 community tree planting events in the fall of 2023. And like Sadia, one of the things that was the highlight for me was just the interrelationship between the seniors and the secondary school students, as you can see in the lower right-hand picture. Just a very dramatic, at least for me, emotionally dramatic to see the way that that the kids and the elders work together to make the tree planting easy and effective. And then this is where ACER, and particularly Alice and Sadia, came in to help us to do the 3 tree training sessions. 2 of them in well, actually 1 in August of last year, 1 in the latter part of October, or yeah, in the first part of October, and then 1 in the early spring. And fortunately, we weren't rained on, but it was challenging. The weather was blustery and cool for all 3 of those sessions. And then we also produced reference guides and videos, and this is just an example of a handbook that we produced for the secondary schools kids, because what we found is that school board administration does not necessarily include environmental initiatives as part of their curriculum, and it's really up to the teacher and or principal to either create and organize an eco club or a green team within the high schools. And there were a lot of kids that came from schools that didn't have green teams that were very interested in forming one within their own school. So we felt that this would be a valuable resource for them. Sadia and Alice put together other training materials for the students to help them identify tree species and to look for different disease elements that would be affecting those trees. and obviously details in terms of how to do proper planting and mulching. I'm going to flip now my screen here and go to a short video that one of our members, one of our BEA members, is also a videographer and a drone pilot. And this video is just a very short synopsis of the last training project that we did. So hopefully you can hear both the sound and the video. Let me know.
I don't think we can hear sound.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me just stop.
I can hear the
It's only
sound.
music. It's only
I can
music.
hear, I can
Okay,
hear the
yeah,
sound.
it's just music. Yeah, that's all it is. Okay, if you can hear that. So that's the end of my presentation, and we really appreciated the support that we got from ACER, and particularly from Sadia and Alice, who did a great job pulling together the curriculum and focusing on some of the leadership aspect for the kids. Positive feedback from the students and the seniors that participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. And now I'd like to call on Alice to talk about the future of ACER. Alice, over to you.
Yeah,
You need to.
thank you.
You'll
Thank
need
you,
to.
everyone.
You'll need to.
I did.
Okay. Do you want your camera on?
Yes, it should be on. All right. Yep. Okay, should be on. Start video.
And do we see the slides? The slides?
I see
Yes.
the slide. Yep.
I just see Alice's slide. Yes.
Okay. So welcome and into the future of ACER based on what you've heard from the various participants' presentations this morning. We've been delighted to work with them over the last year and looking forward to more in the future. So I wanted to take a minute to help you understand where we could be going with what we've done so far and building on it. And Jonathan alluded to some of this when we talked about the drone usage in the field. You saw that, but there'll be a way to take with new software to move us into what we call interactive virtual imagery or digital twinning. That's where we're hoping to go so that people can use it for planning and inventorying present day buildings and landscapes. See what they could do in the future if they ask what if. And okay, so the other part of our learning is the GPS mapping that you heard from Sadia. So we're looking at doing that as well, because with the Trimble now is one of the latest, and we can get down to 30 centimeters, even less if we pay more. But we're delighted to have this. You saw the antenna, you saw what it's portable in the field, and that's exciting. Then the last part would be to deal with the school resources, for example, with Toronto District School Board, to update our work with them in using science, technology, engineering, math, the STEM program, and other programs from K to 12 that would be helpful to have the teachers give their curriculum a boost by getting the kids outside and doing something useful. It's data that's needed too. So measuring those trees that have been planted. Okay, next slide, please. So into the future with us, this is how we're focusing. As you see, we talked about, I just mentioned the TDSB, which is the largest school board we've got in this province. And they have over 400 schools that they look after from K to 12 and alternative schools. And that's just the public school board. We have connections with the Catholic board as well in Dufferin Peel and so on. The other area focusing as new organizations, we're now exploring embryonically some new contacts and excited people who found us, both on all outdoors, using schoolyards and public spaces, private spaces to build their organization. And ACER would be very excited to work with these new people. The last part, of course, is to keep ACER's lights on. And one of the ways in which we're looking into doing is setting up a foundation so we can raise our profile and secure funding. As a charity, registered charity, we have to be very careful of what we do and raise money. And we are only allowed certain amount, street prices and so on, which sounds easy, but it's not easy to get new funding today in this present day circumstances of economy and hardship as we deal with inflation and all accommodation and all groceries and other things. So everybody's focusing on helping society improve themselves at the pocketbook, but we're saying they need to do the physical, emotional, social, and even moral things to make the world a better place for themselves and for their community and our planet. So that's where our three key issues are, focuses as we go forward to 2024. We hope you, the rest of 24, I should say, we just hope you'll keep with us and join us and stick with our newsletters and posts and things on our website. You've got it there, acer-acre.ca. So that's all I have to say that today. Of course, I can talk a lot about anything if you call me. 905-601-7685 is on the website. And I would like to now mention that we're going to announce the break we're going to have for a few minutes as we set up the traditional formal AGM, which everyone can join. So stay on. It's very quick, probably 20 minutes max. And at that time, everyone who has paid can vote, but everybody can join. So now a huge thank you and big hugs as we've had over the years. You've seen us and been with us to collaborate, volunteer, give us best advice, best practices, paid some money or some time with us, which is important, the time especially with the experts, and funded, help us fund ourselves and keep us going, and encouraged as we move along in these sort of bleeding edge, as Madeline the chair would call it, pioneering all the way as settlers trying to get relevance to our current society and our Indigenous people with so much knowledge. Anyway, that's it. So now just help us grow into the future and take a little break. We'll see you back in probably 10 minutes or so.
And I just wanted to check if we had any questions.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
Yes, we have 3 minutes. We're ahead by 3 minutes.
Oh,
so
good.
Take questions.
I haven't
I
looked
see
at
lots of
yet.
great comments.
Yeah, we have good comments. We can record those.
Yep. And I
Oh,
know the
good.
links are there, and we'll send out the links as well in a separate email too. So to the videos. Oh, great.
Yeah, I mean, I Jonathan here, and I guess Alice and I always talk about being too far out ahead of everybody. And I think that the gap is starting to close. I had somebody from the municipal staff come up to me and say, "Oh, Jonathan, we were at this major conference, and guess what? They were talking about digital twins." And I thought, oh, I said, that's interesting. I said, I've been asking you to really get that information in, bring it in-house so that you can begin to ask the right questions. Because if you don't start asking the right questions, two things are going to happen. These digital twins are going to come in and they are going to have the wrong information. And with the wrong information, they're going to have our municipal staff making very expensive decisions that will have to be fixed down the road. So one of the things with this, what we're doing with ACER and with these digital tools is learning how we can bring citizen science into the 21st century so that we can ground truth these algorithms that are working in the cloud with all this satellite imagery. And I put a link to the one example with trees and NASA and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association, because they're doing amazing stuff with all the sensors out there. NOAA has 10,000 sensors and buoys across North America. And a lot of it's going into the weather, studying the weather patterns. So we want to sort of be able to ride that crest, that wave, at the local level, at the neighborhood level, begin to look at ways in which we can explore this technology so that it's not being done to us, but that we can decide how it's can be best used for community science in the 21st century.
Thanks, Jonathan. Sadia has her hand up. Would you like to ask your question, Sadia, or comment?
Yeah, no, I wanted to add to what Jonathan's saying, and he mentioned in the last bit that not having that technology being done to us. And if we understand what it is, then you can set up much more ethical systems. And we can see that how with AI, things can go out of hand. And there have been many attempts to start with the smart cities and smart neighborhoods. And so when I think this is the way that we're using it and the way that we're presenting, doing the digital twinning is that ethical way, right? And then that way people can understand what it is, and then they can understand what their rights are at the end of the day. But if we have no clue of what it does and what it's like, I think we could be in trouble. So definitely what you said, Jonathan, at the end there, not done to us using
Thank you, Sadia.
Data collection.
I like
Yeah.
hello.
Alice, you want to say something? You have to unmute. Let me see if I can do it.
Okay, I've done it, I hope. Maybe not.
Yes,
okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, Heather, I'd like to have Heather come in and make her comments about AI and how, with weather forecasting particularly, you need that human element to be vigilant because it can go astray. And she probably can say it much better than I. Heather, can you answer or comment on that last bit?
Sure. Thanks, Alice. It's Heather here. I wear a meteorology and climatology hat most of the time. But I've had some examples, for example, my last position where an artificial intelligence company, that's their specialty, wanted to look at the impact of climate change and what its implications were for the world, the infrastructure, both natural and built in particular. And oftentimes, if AI is used without some valid sources, valid information sources behind it, or without some expertise behind it, the conclusions can be quite wrong. I've tried using it myself, and so have colleagues, to generate reports. And typically what I find is that there's one piece of information that's correct. The next one, when you know the topic, you go, no, 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 that's not right, because it's often taken from the internet. And as you know, what's on the internet isn't always 100% accurate. It may be an opinion or it may be a fact. So so there is, as you say, you don't want to have the AI or other technology done to you unless it's based. If you don't know what it's based on, you could become a victim. So there are caveats. It's a wonderful tool. If you know a topic, you can go through and sort what's right and what's incorrect. But if you don't know, you could be quite misled. I think that's what I intended, Alice.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Absolutely perfect.
And can I just build on that, Alice?
Yep.
Heather's point. So the level that Heather works at, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, is at a much larger level than we have down here. If you remember the micro downburst in Burlington in 2014, they had sensors all over the place, but they weren't able to track it and have an early warning system. It didn't work. And what they did afterwards is they looked at all the social media, people that uploaded social media to show where the water actually went. And they were just surprised at the difference across Burlington. That's like just one municipality, you have different impacts of the weather. These micro downbursts may happen on one side of the city and not on the other. So one of the things you want to be able to do is disaggregate. Well, like if you disaggregate your data down to that parcel lot and the neighborhood, you're going to see different different outcomes from one particular extreme weather event in a municipality. And that's where you really want to be able to be informed, the decision makers, when they're looking at how to incorporate this technology into their workflows and into their systems for managing our infrastructure.
Yeah. Also, the example way back in history is that when they were looking at bird migration patterns in the California area, they set up a program for citizen scientists to send their data, what they saw, their bird sightings, into a site on the web. And that gave them where the birds were sighted, of course. But what they didn't say, and the back end of it was set up by scientists who knew the ranges, the traditional ranges of those birds. And they set the parameters for citizen science to report. And when it was outside those parameters, they went in and checked for sure that they were still legitimate sightings. So always the scientists way back, this is going back maybe 30 years, were behind the good data collection by citizen science. And that's what we're talking about here with Heather's insights as to what's going on in the ground. So for example, I know Heather's done reports for the city of Calgary that sat on the shelf for 8 years and they had a big flood and lost houses and soil down into the river. No surprise for those who are involved and know the projections. And it's projections that are based on fact and data collection that make the projections legitimate, because they all have to be data tested to have a model they can trust. End of story.